starting lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Well, hello and welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, as we give it a little and polish off this week with a lovely show here. Before we get this show rolling, I want to give a quick congratulations to Coach Hare from the Campbell Camels, who is now taking the head coaching job at Ohio State to be their baseball head coach, a Baden grad. And, yeah, I love Coach Hare. And now I guess I got to root for Ohio State, which stinks. But, hey, it is what it is. Now there's two Baden grads that coach at Ohio State, the women's basketball coach also from Baden. But we got a lovely show for you guys today. We are going to talk the Reds and the Red Sox as the Red Sox come to town. That's a team that I don't think gets enough credit for the crowd they bring in.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. Like the Dodgers we know, the Cubs we know, the Yankees we know. The Red Sox are quite literally right there with those teams and bringing a big crowd. So it should be a packed house at Great American Ballpark, although the heat might veer people away. There's been rumors about an expansion to March Madness. We're going to talk about that. Greg Sandlin's going to come on later as we talk Reds. And we're just going to give a little tidbits on the Stanley Cup. There's also there is news going on about FCC. It might be scuttlebutt. It might be actual news. We'll get into that and more. Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett, Jimmy Collins, Casey McCollister. I'm Reed Mouse. Hey, guys.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Today, another beautiful. By the way, when was the last time it rained? Do we have a rain counter? Can we get a rain counter, Jimmy? Because I feel like, excuse me, it hasn't rained in quite some time in the Cincinnati area.
So here's the thing. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I have a small little side hustle where I cut yards.
Yes.
I cut a lot. I got like 6, 8, 9 yards depending on the year, the month. Sometimes they're like, hey, don't need to cut it this month. But typically around 8 to 9 yards. And I'm in trouble of, like, the grass might not grow if it doesn't rain soon.
Yeah.
Like, if we don't get rain in the next week or two and it stays this hot, it might be close to being done cutting grass for the summer, at least into the fall. It might get dormant. So a little money out of Rita Roo's pocket if we don't get some rain here.
That would be unfortunate. It's going to rain. I believe Everett says it rained Wednesday. I don't think that's true.
It spit. Everett said it did. There was like a heat storm. You know, sometimes it gets so hot that we get like a pop-up storm. Yeah. And when it actually rains, like the rain feels hot.
Yeah.
That happened for like 10 minutes in Hamilton and I think in Ross.
Didn't rain at my house, whenever that was. But outside of that, yeah, it's a great day. It's a beautiful day. It's a Friday. Getting ready to start the weekend. Mm-hmm. Casey, you told me yesterday you had a story to tell, and I've been waiting for you to tell this story for over 24 hours now.
What?
Yeah, you said you had a workout. You and your wife have been working out, and you wanted to talk about it today.
I mean, I guess. I didn't know. Okay. Well, yeah.
I wrote it down. I wrote it down.
You certainly wrote it down.
You told me you'd talk about it.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it right now. I have never been more into pickleball in my entire life. It actually has taken over like every single little bit of my like extra brain power up here.
Have you been buying new paddles?
I've been looking up trying to buy new paddles,
I've been looking up
how
new paddles too.
The correct way to hit the pickleball. Like I've got my entire feed is just covered in pickleball stuff now. And at some point when I'm not so busy, my wife's not so busy, we're going to be playing every day. We were going to play every day this week, except it's 95 degrees outside and we would die of a heat stroke. But we still went out there on like Monday. And I literally was drenched that one. I sent that photo in that one time into our group chat.
Yes.
You saw how just absolutely sweaty I was. Yeah, I honestly.
Sopping wet?
Sopping wet. I don't think there's a better way to get your workout in than pickleball, in all honesty. I don't know how you guys feel. I don't know what you guys do to work out. I know, Reed, you work out a lot. Run.
Not as much as I used to. I feel like there's better ways to work out, but typically, if you struggle getting to work out, then certainly make it a competition. That makes it more fun. Pickleball's a lot of fun. You move around quite a bit.
I've got a take about pickleball,
You hate it.
and you're not going to like it.
This is
Pickleball stinks.
on.
You should just be playing tennis. Pickleball is for children
but
or
it's a different game.
Tennis is so much harder.
Did you play tennis?
Correct. It's a harder game because it's a better game. It's a more difficult game to
Right.
play.
Well, it's like
It's not as recreational.
I'm not.
Sure
I'm not,
it is. You go out to the court and you hit it, you get bring a tennis racket. Boom, you play.
I'm not going to disagree with that take because he plays tennis. So, like, if you can play tennis, you should play tennis. It's similar to how people that play slow pitch softball, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you don't want to play the full game of baseball, you just want to play an abbreviated version of it. So that's what you do. I don't hate that opinion, but I don't think you should discredit people that like playing pickleball.
I belong to it's not a country club. It's just a tennis. It's called Western Tennis and Fitness Club. That's what it's called.
Big time.
And
Country club. Congratulations.
Not a country club, but I do belong there, and they've got about 10 courts. And what I would do, I'd call up. I'm like, hey, I'm going to play my friend in tennis. You reserve a court. Yada yada yada. They now have 3 courts solely reserved for pickleball. So now there's only 7 actual tennis courts and 3 pickleball courts. I think that's lunacy.
I'm sure those pickleball courts get a lot of use.
They surely do. But listen, at the end of the day, I just want to see the game of tennis come back. The game of tennis appears to be dying, and it's because of pickleball and because of people like Casey who wants to go out there and frolic in the fields with the pickleball thing and have his little day, a merry little day. Well, I'll teach you tennis, Casey, and we can make you the greatest tennis player this side of Hamilton.
You've got to understand that when you start a sport as an adult, you want it to be as easy to learn as possible and still fun. And that's exactly what pickleball is. Like you could have never played pickleball before. You can walk out there and you can have a fun time.
Let me say this because this will inflate the ego of Elliot over there. The entry level to pickleball is the skill level is very low.
Very low.
Like you can start at any level.
You could pick it up
pickleball.
today and play.
Yeah, you could pick it up today and play. Now, tennis, I can't get a good serve over the net without just like lobbing it over.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that regard, like I would have to learn how to actually hit a tennis ball with the racket, how to slice a ball, things like that. Pickleball, you just hit the dang thing, and it's pretty self-explanatory.
Do you think the guy who made pickleball is just sitting in his money right now saying, I literally made a mockery of tennis. I used a wiffle ball, and then I used some fake paddle, and then we called it pickleball, and now
Maybe
it's
they just
global.
I played pickleball as a kid in gym class. It was called paddleball is what we called it. It was the exact same game, except for there wasn't the kitchen. But it was the exact same game, and that's what we'd play all the time. So it's been around for a while. It's not a mockery. It's just introducing. It's an introducing, makes it easier to get involved in the similar things. Like I just said, it's like slow pitch softball. It's like those that don't want to throw the ball and do all those things. Hey, let's just lob it in there. Let's have fun. Let's hit the ball around.
What's the kitchen?
The kitchen is that line. You can't go up closer to the net, or else you could just stand at the net and smack everything down. What's funny is so many sports, when you watch the professional level of baseball, you are in awe. Dude's throwing 100 miles an hour. When you watch the professional level of basketball, dude's dunking it, dude's hitting threes from everywhere, you're in awe. When you tune into professional pickleball, the best pickleball players just literally dink it. It's literally just like tiny little hits back and forth so that neither team can slam one down. So the highest level of pickleball is the least interesting form of pickleball.
That's
Because
fair.
they literally just softly hit it back to one another.
What is the scoring for pickleball?
You play to 11. You got to score on your own serve.
So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? That's how you score? Or is that what you're talking about?
It's just points, yeah.
Okay, I see. So they didn't copy the tennis scoring is what I was asking.
No.
All right. Well, okay.
It's more ping pong.
Correct. It's big ping pong. It's ping pong if you were just using bigger paddles on a bigger surface. It's the exact same thing. Is it you can have 2 bounces on pickleball? That's right.
No, it's
No,
just
just one.
Oh, it's still only 1 bounce.
Yeah.
I feel like pickleball rules have changed.
I feel like you should just learn the rules of pickleball before you even hate the sport.
Yeah,
Before you hate
the only
sport.
weird thing is you've got to let the return hit once.
Right.
Like you can't just serve and then run up to the net and slam it down. You've got to let the return hit once. So each side's got to
see.
let the ball bounce once, and then it's just.
Well, I'm sure we will make a video at some point this summer playing pickleball, and when that
100%.
happens, And when that happens, I will be on the winning team. Because
If you lose pickleball after this
Oh,
shtick,
yeah.
oh boy.
I don't
I'll be
think I
honest,
can.
Elliot. I think I've got you in pickleball.
I think
I think I do
playing
too.
tennis.
I
is
think
gonna
I
make
do
pickleball
too.
harder.
I think all of us got him in.
I think I've
pickleball.
got you in pickleball.
You're gonna try to do tennis.
It's a
thing.
different
It's
game.
not gonna work.
It's a different game.
I'm going to try.
I feel like I've got you in the mobility part. Like,
well,
I feel
sure.
like I'm working around.
Correct. But it's a doubles game, right? You don't play solo pickleball? Is
you
that
can.
correct?
You
Yeah,
You
play
can,
solo.
but
Oh,
it's primarily doubles. I
you
feel
play.
like.
There is solo pickleball?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's solo pickleball.
What?
Yeah.
How do you think me and Casey and Alex are playing, and me and Mariana are playing? We're playing against one
You
another.
play 1-on-1.
Oh, I thought that was.
You
I
run
thought,
a lot more in 1-on-1.
I thought you meant like a double. It's still one bounce for 1-on-1.
Yeah.
It's the same rules.
It's the same as
rules.
tennis. Do you play one bounce in
doesn't
tennis?
change.
I guess. I don't know. This is very new to me. I played pickleball one time with my grandpa. He took me up to the YMCA and we played pickleball. And I was, again, not very good at it because it was supposed to be tennis, and it wasn't tennis. It was fake tennis on these little
Did you
terrible
lose to
pickleball
your
courts.
grandpa?
So you're mad
Yes,
about
I did.
pickleball because
Yes,
you
I
lost
did.
to your grandpa.
I did.
Now we've gotten to the root of the problem.
I did lose to my grandpa, and I'm pretty sure they had special rules where the ball bounced twice. Because that's why I asked that. I'm almost certain
It sounds like your
older
grandpa
people,
may-
older people were able to play the 2 bounce rule, and I think that's cheating. That's wrong.
Yeah, well, they probably did. It's like going up to the
that's-
white tees in golf, or there's a senior baseball leagues, like 45 and
Yeah.
up leagues, that where if you hit it in the outfield, it's an automatic hit.
Oh.
Because they could probably just the left fielder could.
Oh my
if you hit
God.
it into left field, they could probably just throw it to first because you're
not
you're
getting
not
there.
you're not running down the line.
That's outrageous. That's
It's great.
outrageous.
It's great.
But all right, so that's it. Segment 1, off the bench, Chatterbox Sports. We got headlines coming up. Reed mentioned what we're talking about. We got Craig coming on at 11. Pack show for you today, and we'll be right back with you. And welcome back in Chatterbox Sports Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Listen, it is a beautiful day. Could not be more beautiful. It wasn't as hot yesterday, I felt like, or at least it wasn't as humid. It wasn't as humid yesterday. I could breathe outside, so that was good. My dad got home from Ireland yesterday. Shout out to Ireland. He went to the Guinness factory. I don't know if you ever, Jacob, you've never been
Very
over.
cool.
Have you
I
been?
have
to,
not.
You've never been to
Did
Ireland?
he get his
Ireland.
picture on the thing? Like
I'm not sure if he did that. I'm not sure if he did that.
foam thing.
But
He
he
split a G.
split. He did talk about splitting the G yesterday.
Real cool.
And he said, like, every couple, like, he would walk up to a random couple in Ireland, and they'd be able to split the G. Be like a 55-year-old woman. She's like,
yeah.
split the G. She's like, okay. And then she did it.
impressive.
So that's very impressive. My dad said he couldn't do it, and he spilled it all over himself. So, amateur drinker, my father.
You seem like a guy who likes a Guinness, Elliot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
dark
love.
beer guy?
Yeah.
That reminds me of Elliot.
the heavy froth. Yeah, that would be gross.
I love a good Guinness. love a good Guinness.
I'm sure. Is there good Guinness over here? I hear the Guinness isn't good over here.
I assume it's the same
It's fine.
beer.
No,
if
it's
it's in
not.
a, if it's in a keg, it's fine.
not.
As long as it's
not
not
the
poured out of
same.
a can, it's fine.
It's not the same. Headlines in sports. Again, no sports whatsoever, but we're going to talk about them nonetheless. Reds were off yesterday. No new news to report. Tonight, the Boston Red Sox come to town for only the 5th time ever. It's the 5th time ever the Boston Red Sox have come to Cincinnati. Andrew Abbott versus Kutter Crawford is the pitching matchup. Abbott is 5-6 with a 3.42 ERA, 60 strikeouts, and a 1.2 WHIP. Kutter Crawford is 3-6 with a 3.54 ERA, 88 strikeouts, and a 1.15 WHIP. If I know anything about Andrew Abbott, this game is going to be a low-scoring game. I think this final score is going to be 3-2. Now, the counter-argument to that is that it does seem, and Jimmy said it this morning before the show, when the Reds are wearing their City Connect uniforms, they do play better. I don't know what it is. There's some sort of magic when it comes to a Friday night in Great American Ballpark. So maybe they do put up some runs against Kutter Crawford. The Red Sox have won 5 straight baseball games. They have won 7 of their last 8 and 8 of their last 10. The Redlegs have lost 4 of 5 and 6 of 9. So we got 2 different ball clubs coming in playing tonight. First pitch, 7-10. We'll see what happens there. Around the league, the Diamondbacks, they win 5-2 over the Nationals to take the series. Ryne Nelson went 7 innings, giving up 3 hits and 2 earned runs. The Twins, they fell to the Rays yesterday, 7-6 in extra innings. 9 of the 13 runs were scored in the 8th inning and beyond. Guardians remained 20 games over 500 as they beat the Mariners 6-3. Our good friend Luis Castillo got shelled. 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs. Tough outing for our boy. Will Brennan hit 2 home runs for Cleveland. The Astros, they take the series against the White Sox, winning 5-3 last night. Chris Flexen did everything he could for the White Sox. 6 innings, a couple of hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. The White Sox bullpen is atrocious, and they blow every lead they've ever had. Honestly, it's just brutal. But they've got that really cool ice cream float.
I've seen that ice cream float more times than I've seen the White Sox win a baseball game this year.
Correct. The Dodgers, they take the series away from the Colorado Rockies, winning 5-3 at Coors Field last night. Royals, they beat the A's 3-2. Orioles dismantle the Yankees 17-5. Luis Gil allowed 7 runs, 8 hits before being pulled.
God bless me.
God bless you?
Well, that's the tattoo Luis Gil has across his neck.
God bless him. The Cardinals, they beat the Giants 6-5 at Rickwood Field, honoring Willie Mays. Reed, you watch any of this one last night?
No, I was at a concert, thing. I did see some of the clips. If you guys haven't seen that story about Reggie Jackson, who when he was playing for the Birmingham Barons during Jim Crow, absolutely incredible storyteller Reggie Jackson is, and the hardships that he went through playing in Birmingham, Alabama, playing at Rickwood Field, and all the things that he went through playing in the Jim Crow era. And then did you see that they had a man, God, I'm going to butcher his name, but I saw it for a second. He's the oldest living player to play in the Negro Leagues. He also fought at Iwo Jima.
Oh, wow.
He played with Willie Mays. He played on the Cardinals with Stan Musial. Absolutely, because he's 99 years old. They interviewed him during the game.
Really?
Yep.
I saw a clip of it, and I didn't watch it, but I saw a clip of it. They did, I think 5 minutes of the game as it would look in 1950. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
I thought that was pretty cool. They made it wasn't even a full screen, really, because they didn't have full screen back then, but it was portion of your screen, black and white, and it sounded old-timey. It looked really cool. So that looked really cool.
Bill Greason was his name. He grew up across the street from Martin Luther King Jr.
Wow.
Really?
What a life that man has lived.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What a life that man has lived.
Padres, they win 7-6 over the Brewers. Jake Cronenworth homers with 2 outs in the 9th to win it.
Walk-off homer in 3 straight games for the Padres.
How about that? NHL news, the Panthers, they travel to Edmonton where the puck drops at 8 for Game 6. Panthers lead 3-2. Jacob, can Edmonton win this series?
I really think so. I really
No.
think so. It's happened 3 times before in the NHL. You know, it really doesn't have a chance in any other sport, but we've seen it happen in hockey. McDavid's playing on another level right now. I know Reed's not scared of him, but I feel like
I'm not.
everyone
Right.
in Sunrise, Florida is at this point, so
Sunrise? Is that like Miami?
not even close.
Oh, it's like
Oh, it's not.
It's like
20
15 minutes away.
right. Far away.
I won't watch this game tonight. I want to make that very clear. But if it goes to a Game 7, I will watch it.
I
will
will
you?
watch this game.
I will watch.
Will you
Game
just
7.
watch it for the fun of the game, or?
Yes, I will not bet on it. I don't know how to bet on it.
If this game's
I-
on, I will watch it.
You will. Okay, that's
Okay, fair.
So if it's at a bar. Or
Well, no, if it's
If it's just on.
if it's on, I'll watch it.
Okay, I see.
Right, yeah, you've got to.
I mean, no question
you
about
guys, You guys get it. You guys understand it. Is that the final NHL news? Because I had some kicker news for Everett Henry.
Oh,
Yes, that's the final NHL news.
So the kicker news I have is at 10:10 tomorrow. I'll be teeing it off with Evan McPherson.
Oh,
Which is pretty neat. It's pretty neat. My brother's his partner at the country club, and he snuck me in. He said, "Hey, I got an opening. You want to play?" I'm terrible at golf, and I'm a
well,
little
just by your
embarrassed.
standards.
So
I'm a
let's-
little
so-
embarrassed.
Just by your
so-
standards.
So let's fix that real quick. I am terrible at golf, meaning Reed will probably shoot like an 88 tomorrow.
I'll probably shoot in the 100s because it's at a country club. And
He
I-
will shoot an 88 tomorrow. Evan McPherson will probably shoot like a 93. And I want you to tell Evan that he was terrible at golf. That's what I want you to do tomorrow. Are you nervous?
No.
How nervous are you on a scale? Like the first,
Well,
the
I'll
first
put-
tee box, you'll be nervous.
I'll be a little nervous, but the one thing that I don't have golf shoes. I lost my golf shoes like 2 years ago.
Are you gonna be playing these?
So I'm gonna have to go out and buy some golf
You're
shoes
gonna
today.
have to buy some golf shoes.
And yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. And no, because I guess we're playing a two-man scramble. So
Okay.
I'm not. That takes the ease off me
For sure.
tremendously.
Now
It's me and my brother versus Evan, and whoever he brings, who is unknown at this time.
Joe?
It's unknown if Joe lives on the golf course. Wouldn't that be something?
you would
Red
be
eye
nervous then.
back from Paris to
I-
play with
I-
Reed Mouse.
Will you try to? How many pictures are you gonna try to sneak in there when you're playing? Are you just gonna do the secret picture below the cart? You're gonna take pictures like that?
I'm absolutely gonna ask for a picture at the end of the round.
Need one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
for
just
sure.
I think that's a fair ask.
If this,
Hats off, handshake picture
Oh,
on
yeah.
the 18th green.
if this was me, and this is how my brain works, I'd be thinking of little quips and jokes I can get at Evan McPherson.
I've already got one that where like he's gonna be like, hey, what you do? I'll be like, I kind of work for like this media company, got a podcast. He's like, oh, you want me to? He's like, oh, you're gonna ask me to be on your podcast, and I'll just be like, no, we want actual football players.
Oh, that's a good one. I was
go.
thinking if you shank it off the tee and he says, hey, idiot, nice shank. You look at him and say, yeah, kind of like that extra point against Pittsburgh. That's what you say. And you start calling him out for those shanks. I listen. I would have so many bits planned for this. I wouldn't even be able to enjoy
I have
the
a
round.
3-page notes page. By
Correct.
now.
I'd just be thinking about my next bit to impress.
I wouldn't even be able to deliver them.
You
'cause I
got-
would just be reading them verbatim for 18
You guys
holes.
talked me into this, by the way, because I originally wasn't going to play
Crazy.
because Paul's wedding's tomorrow, and
Oh, you're going to announce it on the show now.
I'm gonna be a little late for that. So
Okay, so this is so.
I don't mind.
I told Reed to do this because how many times do you have the opportunity to play with golf with a Cincinnati Bengal? Those times are very few and far between.
A prominent one at that.
Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow is Paul's wedding. Our good friend Kutter Paul. It's his wedding. I believe they're getting married in a farm. If you want to crash it, I gave you the location of a farm, so you have to go find a farm in the United States of America if you wanted to crash it. But we are all going to be there. I'm going to represent you there. I might have
I will be there.
Well, no, you won't. Yeah, okay, but I'm going to have.
I'm just not going to Mass.
I'm gonna have a Reed head right on my shoulder, like Michael Scott does in The Office. That's what I'm gonna have, and it'll represent you well.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
It'll
that.
have the little tuft and everything.
It's appreciate that. Now, if Evan's like, hey, you want to go grab a beer back at the crib?
Tough choice.
Got to take them up on it.
I also told the chat, or I also told Paul, and I want the chat's thoughts on this because I know it's frowned upon, and I told Paul I'm doing this. Tomorrow, the wedding is outside. We have a video premiering today at 11:45.
That's right.
I'm interviewing FC Cincinnati fans before their big win over Philadelphia.
Great video.
So check that out. In that video, you will see me sweat so profusely that it's almost disgusting. I told Paul, this is an 8-hour affair all outside in 95-degree heat on a farm. There is a 0.0% chance I'm going to be able to wear a button-down long-sleeve tee or a long-sleeve shirt, collared shirt with a tie. I can't dress up to it like a normal wedding attire when I'm at a farm in 95-degree heat. I'm wearing a polo, and I'm wearing my khaki pants and some nice dress shoes. That is what I'm wearing at this wedding. If you think I'm wrong in that, tell me in the chat right now because I might be. But I told Paul, and he said, Elliot, you're not going to be the only one to do that, so it's going to be okay.
Which polo are you wearing?
He's gonna
Good
bring them
question.
all.
I think I might go the pink one.
Oh,
I might
polo
go-
number 3 of 3.
I might go the pink one. What would Tom say right now? Yeah, well, Tom has, listen, I'm sure Tom would dress very, very nice to this wedding. And I don't know if he'd probably come. He probably wouldn't come to it. But listen, that's it. We got a wedding. Also, I'm not done with headlines. I got distracted. Okay, hold on. Let me finish headlines. Euros. Spain beat Italy 1-0.
Viva España. People forget Spain, dictatorship until
Back.
the 80s. Not a democracy until
Really?
the 80s. Yep.
I didn't know that.
I
Denmark.
forget that because I never knew it.
Yep. There you go.
Or cared about it. Denmark and England, they tied 1-1. And Slovenia and Serbia, my good friends, the great nation of Serbia, they did not get the win. They tied with Slovenia 1 apiece.
And that's soccer.
And that's soccer. So nobody scored 2 goals in any of those games.
Good matches.
Other soccer news, FC Cincinnati has submitted a $15 million offer to Juventus. Is that right?
Juventus.
Or Juventus? Submitted a $15 million offer to Juventus for Weston McKennie. That's a badass name.
I've heard of him before.
The 25-year-old United States men's national team star central midfielder has appeared 138 times for Juventus. McKennie is entering his final contract year and is expected to have multiple options elsewhere, per Christian Dyer. Soccer boys over there in the corner. Thoughts?
Yeah. So Reed told me that he wanted to explain this a little bit because he didn't.
Please.
He didn't
Explain,
seem. He didn't seem to understand.
You got to dumb it down.
Okay. So Weston McKennie, you guys know he plays for midfield for the U.S. men's national team. Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's a start. So when he was younger, he played in, I believe it was FC Dallas's like training program. So like they brought him up, but then he never actually signed with Dallas, and then he signed to a club who I really don't know how to pronounce it, but it's over in Europe. And then he signed with Juventus, played with Juventus for a while, and that's kind of his name got fairly big from Juventus, so that is why a soccer fan like Jacob would know who Weston McKennie is, because he's on the U.S. men's national team, Juventus. And then Reed asked the question, why would someone from Juventus sign in the MLS for only $15 million?
That seems to not move the needle for European soccer player.
Well, Weston McKennie went on a loan trip to Leeds where he played with two other U.S. men's national team players, Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams. And in his time with Leeds, it was short. It was only 20 matches, but they were relegated down from the Premier League to the Championship. And then he went back to Juventus. But this is where all the drama happens when he's entering the final year of his contract with Juventus now. So when he went back to Juventus from Leeds, it was a 1 year. It was like 6 months. He played with Leeds for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then he went back. And this is what he said. This is according to The Athletic. He said, "I knew it was going to be challenging, and I didn't know it was going to be to that extent, where I didn't have my locker, I didn't have a room in the hotel, I didn't have a parking space. I changed in the locker rooms with the academy kids, even when you had players in the main locker room who had never played a game for Juventus because they'd always been out on loan. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I've only been gone for 6 months. I come back and I'm treated like this. I couldn't even get my shirt, number 14, even though nobody else had taken the number. I was like, okay, you guys want to treat me like this. I'm just going to show you on the field. I'm not someone that's problematic, and I don't like to cause problems. I don't like uncomfortable situations. I don't like drama. I just try and let my football, my actions, and my work ethic show everything about me, because that's when I feel like I'm at my best. So there's a lot of drama with the players on Juventus and entering his final contract year. It kind of felt like maybe he was going to go somewhere else. There had been some other Premier League clubs that had talked to him about a potential, like, going to play there.
Aston Villa being one of them.
Aston Villa being one of them, who is a good club in the Premier League. But that has sort of seemed to fall through. And people are kind of saying that with the World Cup coming to the U.S. and these players on the U.S. men's national team starting to kind of have families, that some of them are more interested to come back and play in the MLS just to be here in the United States, home with their families. And so that is where FC Cincinnati comes in. They offer him $15 million. And I think this was a big deal because within the last week, we've kind of been hearing some rumblings of FC Cincinnati offering a big contract to a big name. And of course, everyone thought because Messi had signed with Inter Miami that maybe it was going to be someone like Ronaldo, which this is not quite Ronaldo, but Weston McKennie, great on the U.S. men's national team. And yeah, $15 million offer. Hopefully he takes it. I think that it would bring a lot of viewership, just the American soccer fan, to FC Cincinnati having a player on the U.S. men's national team playing here in America. I think it would be a really good buy.
If he came back, how, like, is he a top 10 immediately, a top 5 player in the MLS? Is he immediately a top 10 player in the MLS? Like, how?
Well, I can tell you what he'll do for FC. Right now, FC lost their 2 best defenders. Miles Robinson, he's currently out playing on the national men's team at the moment, and he might be gone for the Olympics later on in the year. So that's 2 months that he'll be gone. And then Matt Miazga, he just did something to his leg. He has a huge gash. They're kind of still doing some testing to make sure that there's nothing more serious than that. But all reports have said that it's pretty serious. He crushed his leg up against the goalpost trying to make a save. So that being said, Weston McKennie is one of the better defenders. I think he's a really good defender. Does things really well without the ball in his hands. He's really good in positioning, really good in space in terms of getting in the box, getting his head on the ball, things like that. He's really good at possession, right? And then there's this added this added factor with this guy that we've seen in his career, at least what I'm reading here, is that he's got that offensive potential to really set guys up for success, which with a guy like Acosta and with the blossoming of the other guys up front, the strikers on FC's team right now, it seems like he could be a really, really good asset. We've never really had dominant midfield play except for like guys like Acosta. Having the other guy opposite of him on the defense could be really, really, really big for FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, especially they won the Supporters Shield last year, which is the best team in the regular season in the MLS.
Top of the table.
Yeah, and they didn't win the finals, or I'm not quite sure what they call it in the MLS.
And on top of it, Weston McKennie is a diehard Harry Potter fan.
Oh,
Really?
very
Has
cool.
a lightning bolt tattoo, and his signature goal celebration is him casting a spell.
How
How
cool
about
is
that?
that?
And speaking of Harry Potter, this segment has disappeared. So we're going to go into segment
God
3
bless.
and a break. ESPN 1410 Wing AM, the best sports coverage in the Miami Valley. I have some more headlines coming up next. Welcome back in. Elliot, Casey, Reed, Jacob, Jimmy, we are all here for you on a Friday. Happy Friday. The weekend is upon us for those listening I messed this up now. In your car or on your radio. Listening in your car or on your radio. I'll figure that out eventually.
On the car and in the radio is way more interesting.
That is way more fun, isn't it? But nonetheless, you are here. Thank you very much for joining us. Some other headlines. And this isn't the segment we're going to talk about this, but I'm going to mention it here in the in the headline segment. The NCAA presents a new basketball tournament new model that would expand the field by 4 or 8 teams. So March Madness might be getting expanded, and we'll talk about that later on in all of our thoughts on it. NC State, speaking of basketball news, the 1983 NC State men's national championship team is suing the NCAA over NIL compensation. 10 players from that team that won the championship have filed a suit against the NCAA and the Collegiate Licensing Company for unauthorized use of their names, images, and likeness. They want financial compensation for the NCAA's use of their names and videos and images promoting college basketball and the NCAA tournament without their consent. Thoughts on that? You think they got anything there?
Everyone that seems to be suing the NCAA for NIL seems to be winning. So
you know what my favorite thing is? I don't really even care about this. To be quite honest, I probably don't think they should be getting any compensation. This happened way after their time, and I don't think it's a crime to have your video shown on the promotional video for March Madness. Saying that, I get them wanting money, and I love every time somebody sues the NCAA. I love it. I hate the NCAA.
Oh, the worst.
They're the absolute worst.
The worst.
They're going to be abolished here soon, and that will be a great day for America. But any lawsuit that gets piled on top of that corrupt organization, please do it. Please do it. So 1983 NC State men's basketball team, I hope you win. I don't think you will. I don't think you got a shot, but I hope you do because the NCAA stinks. NFL news, Ramondre Stevenson became the 7th highest paid running back, $17 million guaranteed, $36 million, a 4-year deal to stay in New England. This is your guy, Ramondre Stevenson, as Reed's always been a Ramondre Stevenson fan.
Reed's Patriots.
And the running back market, has it just been reset?
That'll move the needle, New England Patriots. I mean, I've talked so much crap about the New England. Remember when they signed Zeke last year, and everyone just sat there and was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I don't know where the Patriots are going. The good news is their offense is so bad that this honestly doesn't, like, it's not the most mystifying move because, like, where else are you going to spend your money? Might as well get the solid running back. And that's what he is. He's a solid running back. But it actually kind of reminds me of the Joe Mixon contract when the Bengals were really bad. They're just like, it doesn't make sense to extend a running back to big money, but you're not using it anywhere else, so let's go ahead and just throw it at the running back, keep a guy around here for the time being. If the Patriots beat the Bengals week 1, I will be a puddle of sadness.
That'd be bad. That'd be bad.
A puddle of sadness.
Shame.
NBA news, and this we'll talk about this a little bit later. We won't touch on it too much right now, but J.J. Redick is the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Allegedly, this deal was inked before that Dan Hurley story broke. You saw Shams, if you follow the NBA, Shams is a reporter. I'm not even going to pronounce the last name. Do you
Charania?
Thank you. He appeared on the Pat McAfee show kind of throwing shade at Woj for dropping this news because I think everybody knew it was a farce. And the journalist community, not us.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Shams threw shade at him on the Pat McAfee show.
But Dan Hurley's like saying that it happened.
He flew out there.
Right, and he met with the team. Like,
it
what?
happened. I'm just
Apparently
saying.
the contract was like never even close, and Redick building his staff was true. The Lakers had moved on with him, and it was more a Jeannie Buss thing than a Lakers thing.
She just wanted to see Dan Hurley
It was a
in the building.
last-second Hail Mary. Would Dan Hurley take the job? Redick had the contract was either done. I don't think it had been signed yet, but the contract was done and agreed upon before the Dan Hurley news broke by Woj.
What do you think it was like for J.J. Redick waking up on that morning when the Dan Hurley news dropped? It was just like, the heck is this?
Right.
Like, what the
Yeah.
heck? I've already got a team together. We've already inked a deal. That's wild. I didn't know. I didn't hear all
crazy.
that.
Yeah, I saw the drama. It was very cool. I'm a Shams guy, not a Woj guy. But Woj bombs are fun.
Woj bombs are fun.
Final NBA.
Shams bombs doesn't run off the tongue the same.
Correct. And final NBA news, Bulls have traded Alex Caruso away for Josh Giddey.
This seems like a pretty clean split on NBA Twitter. People think that the Thunder absolutely robbed the Bulls, getting a two-time All-Defensive Player, and Caruso. And I think the Bulls actually did a pretty good job. Caruso, 1 year left on his deal. He's going to get a max contract. You're nowhere close to winning a championship.
Alex Caruso is going to get a max contract.
Oh, he's one of the best defenders in the league.
What a world this
What
is.
is like his number for a max?
Like, I think it's over 100.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, I mean, he's two-time All-Defensive Player, not Player of the Year, but All-Defense team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the best defensive guards in the league. He'll be a rotational player in Oklahoma City with Shai and Luke Dort in the backcourt. So they're probably the best defensive team in the league now with their roster, and so that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Especially you saw how well a defensive guard worked for the Celtics this year with Drew
Right.
Holiday, and that really, I think that Drew Holiday acquisition really moved the needle for them in terms
For
of
sure.
a very good team in the NBA to like a championship team.
Giddey
So-
fell off a lot this year too, so we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see what happens back
The
in.
Bulls have a nice young core. I think Giddey will fit in well there. Had to get one in. You said Michael Jordan. What was that? What was the thing you told me before the show? I didn't even write this down. Didn't hear anything about it. But Jacob told me Michael
Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year award is a farce, officially.
And how
So
is
we're
that?
rewriting history
How-
everywhere
how-
now.
And how?
So, someone at Yahoo Sports, I forget the name, wrote an article about Michael Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year. He went back and watched game film and compared it to the box scores. Michael Jordan was credited with more steals than the opposing team had turnovers. The game film didn't align with the box score. He would have 4 steals, and he'd be credited with 6 or 8, so stuff like that. And his steals and block numbers took an 81% increase in home games versus away games, which is obviously not a feasible statistical bump. So
Oh my God.
it seems like the NBA and big Nike decided to give their guy MJ the Defensive Player of the Year award before the season
You won't see
tipped
that
off.
in air. You won't see Ben Affleck
right.
and Matt Damon talking about that.
No,
You're
absolutely
right.
not.
They should have though.
Seems like a good time to remind everyone that LeBron was robbed of Defensive Player of the Year. They gave it to Marc Gasol. LeBron had all but 1 coach's vote, and then he only got 3 first-place votes from the media. So they stole 1 from LeBron, gave 1 to Jordan. They're protecting their narratives.
LeBron James, greatest of all time. The dynasty continues because this isn't even a debate anymore.
It's really, really a shame
It's not a
because
debate.
I love the GOAT debate. I mean, it's been pretty boring since 2016,
I
but it's
can't-
been fun, and now it's just over.
I
It
can't wait
stinks.
till Marty comes back on this program and I get to bring up that whole thing. I'm going to tell Marty that all of Michael Jordan's stats were fake and fraudulent.
Oh, yeah.
And he played against plumbers, so that's cool. Okay, last headline before I get into serious sports talk. Sorry, I saw this video of a kid doing whatever that cool skateboard trick is that Tony Hawk invented.
900?
900?
I remember watching Tony Hawk do that for the first time, and now little infants are
Did-
ripping 900s, and that's
Did-
just not okay.
Did Tony Hawk skate against plumbers and firemen?
Did he ruin skating like Steph Curry ruined basketball?
I think he did.
He might have.
I think he did. All right,
That's talking X Games.
That's it. That's it for
Elliot.
headlines. That is it for headlines. I promise.
Casey's
Serious
got
sports
it.
talk. Oh,
We
never mind.
have one last breaking news headline.
Oh!
Matt Miazga is officially going into surgery to repair his knee. So
Season ending, I presume.
I believe that's season ending. Yeah.
Am I,
So
am I allowed to ask? who that is?
FC down
he's
to their
one
best
of the
defenders.
Oh, he's an FC. Okay.
Well,
Seems bad.
Does
McKinney time.
It does
yeah,
seem bad.
it's
McKinney time.
It is. Listen, all right, so serious sports talk. The Reds are playing the Red Sox this weekend at home. I mentioned that the Red Sox are pretty hot coming into this series. The Reds are obviously not as hot. I wanted the Reds to be 500 against the Brewers and Pirates on the road. Didn't get it. If I'm to be honest, they really weren't close. I think that Brewers series that easily could have been a sweep for Milwaukee, and this Pirates series was bleh. I mean, it was just bleh. So if the offense is going to play like this going forward, obviously the Reds have no chance whatsoever. But your expectations coming into this homestand as a whole, the Red Sox and the Pirates, you mentioned yesterday you needed at least, 4 wins?
I would love 4 wins.
4 wins against the Red Sox and the Pirates. In my opinion, again, I have to keep saying I just want 3-3. I have to, during these 6 games.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with 3-3. But my thing is, and again, with the injuries that pile up, if we don't have TJ Friedl, and I don't think any news has officially been said about whether or not he's available to us, whether or not Nick Martini is available to us, I presume Jeimer Candelario is available to us. He swung a bat yesterday, or in 2 days ago's game, Wednesday's game.
At least DH him.
I would assume he's available to DH, but even then, is he healthy enough to swing a bat? Is his mind right?
What percentage of Jeimer Candelario is better than the next person that would be in that slot?
Yeah, hurt Jeimer Candelario is far better than Nick Martini.
Where do you draw the line? 50% of Jeimer Candelario?
Yeah, probably 50%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Probably 50% of Jeimer Candelario is better than the next best guy available, and especially if you don't have TJ Friedl. It'll be interesting. I don't know. It seems like I could be wrong on this. I feel like the Reds have struggled against the Red Sox when they've played over the past, in my lifetime at least. Could be wrong on that stat. That's at least what it's felt like. And I don't trust the Reds during interleague play either. I feel like they've struggled in interleague play. As Reed says, they struggle against everybody over the past 25 years. So what do I really know? But at the end of the day, this is a series that feels like it's almost like that Dodgers series the Reds swept. You need some momentum here. That Dodgers series brought the life back a little bit into the club and into the fan base. I think this is a big one here at home, City Connect Friday. You're taking a team that they're okay. They're a solid team. They're going to be fighting for the wild card in the AL. But at the same time, this isn't a World Series contender here. This is a beatable Red Sox team. And if the Reds are able to win this series, I'm going to consider the season just perfectly back on track, back on normal. Not off the track yet.
Reds are 5-15 against the Red Sox since 2000.
Got it. Nailed one.
I
nailed one.
4-3 over the last 7 years.
I said
they won their first ever series in Fenway in 2023. So last season, this is the Red Sox 5th time ever coming to GABP.
Jose Peraza,
I think it was all GABP, but
I think Jose Peraza had a home run in one of those games.
No, it was Jose Barrera.
Oh, it was Barrera. It was a Jose Barrera.
2023. Jose Peraza was long gone.
Didn't Jose Peraza? Okay, I'm wrong. You're right. I thought Jose Peraza played against him too. Could be wrong. Anyway, my expectations are you
played him in 14 and 17, so probably.
Yeah, my expectations are you win this series, then you lose to the Pirates. Go 3-3, and we'll call it a draw. We'll call it a day.
You do have Lodolo and Green the first 2 games against the Pirates. Obviously, games until then, so things have to go well. But those are the 2 slated for Game 1 and Game 2 against the Pirates. So hopefully, even if this Red Sox series does go off the rails, those 2 guys always give you a chance to win. You can win those first 2 games of the Pirates series.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned about the Red Sox lineup. They do score a lot of runs. I'm looking over the past couple of games. I know it's hard to cherry pick on a hot streak, but 7 runs against the Blue Jays, 7 runs against the Blue Jays, 4 runs against the Blue Jays, 9 runs, 8 runs against the Yankees. They scored 9 on the Phillies, one of the best pitching staffs. 8 runs on the Phillies, one of the best pitching staffs. Obviously, they scored 6 on the White Sox, who don't count as a real major league team. But saying that's an offense that can produce runs. Our offense at times looks like legitimately the worst team that's ever fielded a baseball diamond. So it's going to be interesting what happens here. It's not the end of the world if you lose to the Red Sox and the Pirates. But I think just to at least keep up with, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it anymore.
Keep the vibes at a moderate level.
The vibes. Keep up with the vibes. You're a game and a half out of the wild card. By no means you're out of anything. So just fight there. The NL Central is a joke outside of the Milwaukee Brewers. So that's up for grabs too. You can beat some of these divisional teams. But yeah, it's a pretty big series in my opinion this weekend because if you losing four games here is going to kill me.
I'd love to get down to the ballpark for one of them, but it's just going to be too damn high.
What's the attendance over-under? What's the attendance over-under?
It'll be crowded.
It's going to be high because it's the Red Sox, but I think it's going to be lower than it would have been just because it's miserable.
I'll put it at 87.
For the 3, I think that's pretty I think that's pretty good.
I was going to say, can we get 30, 30?
85?
I was going to say 85, 87?
I think Sunday might be pretty low because it's going to be really hot.
Yeah, it's going to be during the day, too.
Yeah.
Like tonight we'll do well.
We don't know who's pitching Sunday, right?
We don't.
So that's
for,
just a
for either team.
That's a mystery game. That's a mystery game. So hopefully the Reds have the first two handled before that Sunday day game. And shout out to Chase. Chase was very nice. He gave me some tickets. I'm unable to go, but it looks like either Casey or Jimmy or Jacob will be using those tickets. So shout out to our member, Chase. And that is it. That is our segment 3. As we go to segment 4, we're going to be talking about some other things around sports. And then obviously Craig is back on at 11 to talk about the Cincinnati Reds, this series against the Red Sox, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned with us. ESPN 1410 Wing AM as my stutter continues on this Friday afternoon. Morning. Welcome back in. Elliot Rearing, Reed Mouse, Jacob Tissett, Jimmy Collins, Casey McAllister. I'm trying to see if I can get those names so fast, just out of memory, when I start these segments. But we are Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports. Welcome on in. So I broke the news during headlines, and it's not really breaking news, but it is certainly something to talk about. The NCAA is looking to expand March Madness, expand the field of March Madness. What are we laughing about?
Nothing.
What are we laughing about?
If you scroll back about 20 seconds on that YouTube, you'll see Reed's just been hard smiling since you entered that section.
Can't do anything. Can't focus. Listen, March Madness has been looking to expand, I imagine, for quite some time now. It's an obvious move. It's a moneymaker. I don't think this would be the right play at all. But as Reed likes to say, change for the most part in sports is a good thing. I don't think I'd complain about it. Like, if they do more games on that Tuesday, Wednesday, a bigger play-in in Dayton.
It's not for the play-in.
It wouldn't be
it's
for the
for the
play-in.
tournament. They're doing
Really?
away with the first 4.
Really?
That's what this would be. It'd be expanding the actual tournament field.
So that would be incredible. I don't know. I go back and forth on it. At some point, I do feel like it waters down the event.
I was going to say, these are playing games. Yeah, that's what
I thought they were expanding the actual field.
I thought
No.
they were playing games.
No, it's for – they were
I saw they were looking to expand the actual field.
they were talking about expanding to like 90 teams. This is just for
believe
4
it's
extra
playing.
teams
Okay.
for 10
Correct.
for 10 and 12 seeds.
I was right. Okay,
And
I was right.
I think a lot of it has to do with the gripes that some teams have had and fans have had about how the bubble is selected. But at the same time, like, do you even remember who was kind of left off this most recent
I
year?
do remember this one because
There
it was
were some big
it
teams
was
left off
egregious
this year.
because Virginia should not have made that tournament, and they made it abundantly clear when they scored 15 points and a half or 10 points.
Those
and a
playing
half.
games are terrible. I mean, there's no reason to add more teams.
But yeah, and it's like
I like the playing
I love the
I
playing
love the
games.
playing
I love them.
Yeah.
I just think
Mine's
it's.
terrible.
I look at it more so from the fact that the NCAA tournament is always great. Like it's all everyone always watches it, especially the first 2 weekends. And I feel like it's not really in a spot where you need to add more teams. I feel like it's not broke, so why try and fix it? And it's why try and make something greater, I guess, in my opinion. I feel like that could only hurt the NCAA tournament. So I'm personally not a fan of adding more teams, but are you guys?
You know, when I watch the NCAA tournament, the absolute last thing I think is we need more teams in this. There's already so many teams that are
what a
just
hater.
incompetent
What
to
a hater.
watch, and the games
What a
are
hater.
terrible. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a college basketball guy. I think the tournament's fun, but I think adding more teams would be a massive mistake. You just get watered down games, more
There's a
watered down
thing
games.
called the NIT tournament. Go play in that.
Right, that's a thing.
There you go, Casey.
Xavier won it a couple years ago.
CIT. Don't make the NIT. Get over there.
Every time I forget about that, I look at that glorious banner that's hanging up at Cintas Center. Listen, I like this. I think the play-in games. I know that we have a sour taste in our mouth from the most recent play-in games, but for the most part, there's been good teams in the play-in games. There's been Mick Cronin made the Final Four playing in the play-in games just 3 years ago.
Syracuse, Jim Boeheim.
This happens that these teams are good, and there's teams that have gripes that think, hey, we deserve to be in the tournament. So if we know that teams that make the play-in games are good enough to compete for the championship, then we as a sport who's trying to find the best champion should allow the teams that have earned that right to get a chance to compete for it. And and you can say, well, they should, if they were good enough to compete for the championship, they would have done better in the regular season. But I'll say, like, they still have an extra game to play. Like, it is stacked against them now that they have to play an extra game, and it's a play-in game to get into the tournament. It's good. It's good for the sport. I similar to how I've liked wild card games in Major League Baseball, similar to how I've liked wild card games in the NFL, this is good.
Jacob's the only person to not like those first 4 games that I've talked to, just because I do like college basketball a lot, especially those first 4 days of March. That first week of March Madness is quite literally my favorite time of the sporting calendar. It's better than the NFL wildcard weekend for me personally. It's better than the Super Bowl. It's better than everything. It's for the gambling. It's for the excitement, for the upsets, for the underdogs. The last time they expanded was in 2011, and that was for the current format of the play-in teams. So the first 4 play in Dayton, 2 16s, and then 2 at-large. The new expansion, as Reed said, it would result in 1 additional first 4 site. I don't know if I like that. I would like them all to be in Dayton.
That's selfish, but that's just a nightmare then, because then you're gonna have to have 8 games played in Dayton, so it's just not doable.
Maybe. Unless you start them at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday.
I've thought for the longest time that the 16 seed should all be playing games because those 16 teams rarely win a tournament game. So that's giving them an opportunity to say, hey, we can win. Because I've always thought I'd rather be a 16 seed that's playing another 16 seed to get into the tournament. That way you could win a tournament game.
Yeah.
And I think they should do that across the board for all 16 and maybe all 15 seeds, and then let more larger conference teams get in at the lower seeds.
Well, then you're punishing mid-majors for winning their conference.
Right.
I think
that's
rewarding other teams for not winning.
So that's the part of this.
But I think that if you ask those teams, if you ask those coaches, you sit them down and say, would you rather play a number 1 seed right off the rip or play a 16 seed and get a chance to win a tournament game? These teams might never get a chance, a legitimate shot to win a tournament game, and now they can't against Corpus Christi.
Right.
I don't think they would trade being in the actual tournament field.
They still get the tournament. They still get to do all the things in the tournament. They're on national television. They get to travel across the country. And this time they're just not doing all that, then losing by 60 points.
But I don't think you would trade being in the actual 64-team tournament field to be in the first round.
You still get a hang-up banner. You still get all those things. We made the NCAA tournament. You're still part of the tournament.
But you
just got a chance to win a game.
But being in the tournament,
being in the tournament's way bigger.
Yeah, being in the tournament for a school like Longwood is just as big as being in the tournament for a school like Cincinnati. Or winning a game in the tournament, sorry.
If they lose in that first 4 games as the 16 seed and you won your conference, that would stink to not make the final 64 field.
I guess the competitor in me would rather have a chance to actually win a game. And I know 2 16 teams have beaten 1 seeds, and the gap is closing between the top seeds and the 16 seeds. But as a player, I'd rather go to a game that I could actually win and do something that might never happen in my school's history, which is winning a tournament game. You still are in the tournament. You still get the T-shirts. You still get the banner. You still get all those things. You get the ring for winning your league championship. You get all those things, but now you've got a chance to do something that your school has never done before, which is win a tournament game.
Unless you lose that first 4 game, then you don't even get to play in the 64 field, which your school's never done.
But then when does it stop? If you just keep expanding it, it's similar to the college football playoff.
We're doing snowball arguments?
Yes.
I hated the college football expansion for
the
same reason.
It keeps expanding, and I don't know. Then when are people satisfied? It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
I don't think so, because very rarely, 4 teams to me, if they expanded it 4 teams by 4 teams, it's usually those are the bubble this year was probably more competitive than it's been in a while, because I felt like there was a couple Big East teams that might have been snubbed there. I think St. John's and Seton Hall were 100% better than Virginia. I think this automatically fixes that. I don't think really there's as many complaints as it is by missing the college football playoff as there is for missing the NCAA tournament. So for that reason, I think 4 teams would be great. Also, the point that Jacob made, I think that could be a real concern. If they do this, more of those games will be the teams who win their conference.
Right.
So it'll be the smaller schools winning their conference and then being relegated to almost punished,
which is good for the schools because they get more money.
If I'm a player on that team, I don't want to be in the first 4. I'd rather be in the tournament.
That's where I disagree as a competitor. I'd rather play a game that I can win.
But I would if I'm playing on a 16 seed, I'm telling myself I can win that game.
Yeah, you're not going into thinking that you're going to lose that game, but there's also a thing called reality that most people live in.
I just don't know how you'd rather be in a play-in game. That's like saying you'd rather make the play-in tournament than being in the actual NBA playoffs. Like, it's the same thing. You're not actually
See,
in the
professional
playoffs.
level,
68 teams, 64
professional
teams, a big
levels
difference.
is much different. You get more money for the school as a competitor. You actually get a chance to win a game. You get to, even on top of that, you get to expand your tournament trip. You got an opportunity to expand your tournament trip, all these things. You still are part of the NCAA tournament. You still get to hang the banner. You still get to do all those things that are so memorable for those players. This time you actually get to play a game that's competitive on a national audience instead of getting pummeled by 40 points.
And you have a chance
make
to
more money for
miss
the school.
the 64-team tournament, which is what matters. The 68, being in the 4-team and losing is not nearly as cool as being in 64-team.
I think it's all the same. And in
See,
my brain,
it's not.
it's all the
not.
same. I want you to explain to me what's the difference.
If you lose
What's
in the
the
play-in,
difference?
you miss the tournament. You're
You're in
play-in
the tournament.
team,
You're
and
in the
you missed
tournament.
the 64-team
No, you're in the
field.
tournament.
I disagree. The teams
I
that
just-
lose in the 68-team are not a part of the 64-team field. Which
what
is
are you
matters.
gaining from being in the 64 field that you're not getting at the
You're
playing
in the
games?
actual tournament. You're not
You
in the play-in
are in the
game.
tournament, though.
That's where I disagree. I think if you lose in the playing game,
So we've just
it's
got
not the
we've
same
just
thing.
got a point of contention of just what is the actual
Yeah, if
tournament.
you're not in the final 64-team field, I think that's different. Losing in the 68, I think, is different than losing in the 64.
It's called a play-in game for a reason.
Right. You're not on the bracket.
That's fine, but you're also not in the NIT. You're still.
Well, it's above
for-
being in the
Does
NIT, but I still think it's punishing a team
I just,
for winning in
I
their
just,
conference.
I just
Does it
disagree
count in
that
the-
you missed the. I think you
Yeah.
were very much in the tournament. Like the NCAA recognizes you as in the tournament. You were recognized. You did all the things right. You get to travel just like if you're in the 64-team tournament. You get to play on a national televised game. And in fact, you get more eyeballs on your program. You get more eyeballs on your team because you're the only team playing. You're not buried at 2 p.m., but when the next game that is a 6 versus a 5 seed or 6 versus an 11 seed playing 20 minutes later. So people are going to tune in, see if you actually got a real shot to play. Oh, you're down 12. Let's turn on the real game.
But I'd rather lose by 60 in the 64 team than lose a close game in the 68.
I just think that the whole argument is you don't think being in the 68-team tournament is a part of the tournament, and I think it
I just
is.
don't think it's the same. Losing in the play-in is not the same as losing to the 1 seed.
Maybe.
That's 100% true. That I can't argue at all.
Right.
But I'd rather have an opportunity to win a game. I'd rather do something that the school has never done before. I'd rather get more money from my school. I'd rather play in front of 10 million people or whatever the ratings get for those standalone games. I'd rather do all of that instead of playing for 20 minutes in
I
front
still
of
think
a
you're punishing a team for winning their conference when other
On
teams
top of
didn't.
that, you're playing in front of a packed house at UD Arena instead of 5,000 fans that show up for that one game in the middle of Greensboro,
but
North
you're in
Carolina.
you're on the bracket. You're in the tournament.
You're in the tournament if you're playing games.
See, not if you lose.
I think that's silly. I think you're absolutely in the tournament if you make. You celebrate. You celebrate if your team makes the tournament on
Agreed.
Selection Sunday.
Agreed.
Because you're a part of Selection Sunday, and that's what's happening. Listen. I disagree. The Big 12 commissioner came out and said he doesn't believe the best possible winner is available to the NCAA in basketball with the current format.
Fair.
And what you can
If you need more than 64 teams, maybe it's a flawed playoff.
maybe. And that's the part where it's like maybe, maybe not. But we've got Craig Sandlin waiting. So what we're going to do, this is the very first time we've done this. We're going to switch the camera to Reed. I'm going to go to the interview desk because now we have a desk just solely designated for interviews. It's the interview station. So I'm going to get up and go.
It's the hot room, the hot seat.
You're the hot room.
seat.
I'm going to end this segment. ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We got Craig Sandlin coming in the chat, or coming into the show from the chat immediately following this break. We'll see you in a bit.
Hey, welcome in here. I think we're bringing it back. So if we're not, it's whatever. But if we are, welcome back to Off the Bench on 1410 Wing AM. We just had a heated discussion about when the NCAA really starts, about what we think is better for these smaller conferences. And Craig Sandlin's about to come on, and Elliot's going to interview him. Craig Sandlin not only is a huge Reds guy, but he's worked in smaller universities, athletic departments. So he'll have a unique perspective on this whole thing. But when Elliot's ready to go, we'll send it back over to him, which is just in a few seconds. I will say right before we do that, I think that if you get these guys in a room, winning a game in front of 5 million fans, or in front of 5 million eyes, or whatever the ratings are, in front of 20,000 people at UD Arena means more to them than going to Greensboro, North Carolina, losing by 40 in front of people watching the game for actually 15 minutes before the next game starts. But I digress. I don't think you're losing anything from playing in the 68 as opposed to the 64. And if your argument is we're on the bracket, people can actually see our name in the brackets around the country, I think that's a silly argument as well. But Elliott Rearing.
I am in. Look at that! Look at that little animation. That was cool. That's a stinger made by Casey McAllister. Thank you, Casey.
There we go.
We now welcome in special guest, superstar to the moon, Craig Sandlin, co-host, one of the many co-hosts, or one of the few co-hosts. I feel like I've seen him a lot on Chatterbox Reds. You have too with Nick Kirby. Craig, how the heck are you, buddy?
What's up, Elliot? How are we doing today?
Uh-oh, I don't hear him.
Uh-oh. Fix the mics.
Uh-oh.
He's plugging back in.
Uh-oh.
Is it plugged in?
No. We're getting that in a second.
Hang on. Hold on.
Take over me. Bring it back over to me. I'll interview Craig for a second.
This whole interview hot desk is really working out very well, let me tell you.
That's got. I'm back.
There we go.
Everybody calm down. I'm
the
back.
hot seat's really working out for you, Elliot, let me tell you.
The radio listeners love that 10 seconds of silence. But Craig, I'm sure you said you're great when I asked how the heck are you?
Yeah, I'm perfect. What
That's
a
good.
great Friday morning. A big weekend ahead for the Reds. But a heated conversation here this morning on Chatterbox Sports and Off the Bench.
So, Craig, I think the crux of this issue when we were debating this, and obviously for those listening on the radio, we're discussing the tournament field as the NCAA looks to expand. I think it's inevitable that they would try this. They did it with college football. The fans begged and pleaded, and they caved to it. And I think it's going to be. I think that's going to work great for college football. Expanding this, it's already, as Jimmy pointed out earlier on last segment, the March Madness is already perfect. The expansion done in 2011 to bring 4 teams to Dayton, the first 4, has objectively been successful. It's worked. It's fun. I love having those 2 games on Tuesday night and Wednesday night. But for you personally, would you like to see this tournament expand even further, 4 to 8 teams? I think 8 teams would be crazy. But could you see 4 teams expanded in the near future here?
All right, well, let's start here. He just made one comment that I'll touch on first, and that is that you view the tournament right now as perfect. Well, guess what? 11 years ago, before they added the first 4, everybody viewed it as perfect too and thought that the move to add the first 4 was crazy. And so this same change is going to be reviewed the same exact way. There's going to be people that are naysayers and don't like it right off the bat. And then in 3 years, you're going to forget about it and think, oh my God, it's still the NCAA tournament and it's great. There's a couple things to think about. First of all, as a former administrator at a small college, the first 4 is the tournament. Okay. So there's not a single school in America who views the first 4 as less than, right? So I'll get that out of the way. The other piece of it is that as a school who, could potentially play on that 16 seed line. Reed made the comment. There was a couple of people in the chat that made the comment as well. But the TV money units that are paid out to these schools are paid by game you appear in. And so that money that you get just for the first 4, if you win that game, you're now doubling your units for the conference that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So for me personally, I'd actually like to see them move to a format where all 16 seeds are play-in games. I realize that maybe those games aren't the most exciting, and maybe you'd rather have 2 major college programs battling it out for an 11 seed. But at the end of the day, from a financial standpoint, those small colleges would embrace that, in my opinion, and would take that and run. So there's that. You've got the eyeballs, you've got the TV money. You have the ability to say that you won a game in the NCAA tournament, regardless of the round. You have that ability to say that. Here's the other thing that I think you guys haven't talked about yet. I don't want to say you're missing it, but here's what you haven't talked about yet. You have to think about the alternative to what is happening, okay? Last year, the NCAA, without going to presidents and ADs or getting any sort of insight or any sort of vote, removed the automatic bid for mid-majors to the NIT, okay? So that's an NCAA-controlled tournament. They removed the automatic bids for mid-majors and completely changed the landscape of the NIT as a whole and the way that teams view the NCAA tournament, because they no longer even had that fallback as the NIT to be able to guarantee themselves, hey, we won the regular season, we lost the tournament game, wherever it may have been within the process. We lost that, and now we don't have anything to fall back on. We may have to pay to play in the CBI or one of the other small tournaments that nobody really talks about at all outside of degenerate gamblers. And so now we're talking about a position where if this didn't get approved, the NCAA would be looking at removing mid-major automatic bids to the NCAA tournament more than they would be thinking about anything else. And so from a small college perspective, I would much rather add first 4 games than have to worry about potentially losing my spot overall in the tournament at all, right? So I think that's the alternative here that people aren't talking about. This is probably a settlement on behalf of the NCAA to make this move to add more teams rather than removing mid-major teams. And so I think that's the piece that maybe we aren't talking about yet, is what is the alternative to this solution, because the alternative is not status quo in the way it's been for the last 11 years.
How many more mid majors would we get then? So I'm talking about I'm looking at a league like let's go to the Horizon League, for example. Usually whoever wins that conference tournament, right? I think they're probably usually at some point, if not the best team in that conference, then they're one of the best teams, one of the most competitive teams. Would you see another MAC team get in, a second Horizon League team? Does that change at all? Or will it still be, it'll instead like UC this year, Xavier this year. Xavier, I guess, kind of fell off towards the end, but towards the middle there was talks of UC and Xavier both getting in as one of those final spots. Those two would get in, and it would still not be the second team in the MAC, right? Or the second team in the Horizon League.
Right. Yeah, so you're not looking at more mid-major teams. You're looking at really giving in to the Power 5 conferences that really ultimately run the NCAA today. But let's look at last year, right? In 2024, the first 4 teams out, because this is released, the first 4 teams out were Oklahoma, Seton Hall, Indiana State, and Pittsburgh. So 2 of those are not traditional Power 5 conference schools in Seton Hall and Indiana State that would have had opportunities to play in the NCAA tournament that didn't have an opportunity to do so because of the lack of expanded format, right? So for last year, it would have been 2 Power 5s and 2 quote-unquote mid-majors, whether you want to call them mid-majors or whatever you want to call them. It wasn't all Power 5 schools. Now, ultimately, this is going to fall on the NCAA committee to make a decision in terms of what teams are going to add. I think one of the challenges that the NCAA faces as a whole is the lack of transparency around the selection process. And so what I am a little concerned about is that there's going to be pressure to focus on those Power 5s. And maybe a team like Indiana State last year, who was one of the first 4 out, would have still been left out just to kind of give in to the Power 5 schools. And since there's not a whole lot of transparency around that, and in the in football, at least, you have the rankings that are released throughout the season, and you kind of have an insight as to where people stand. And so you can have an idea going into championship weekend of what teams are in, what teams are out. And so the selection day for the college football playoff is typically a little less of a surprise than some of the conversations around the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So, that's the thing is the transparency is not going to be there. And so the difficult thing is you're going to continue to have conversations around this team should have been in or that team should have been in. So I don't really know what's going to happen there. I don't know that there's a great solution. The NCAA has come out and said that the net rankings are supposed to carry a lot of weight. They're meeting, I think I heard that they're meeting this week or next week to actually talk about the future of the net as a whole. So I don't know what that's going to look at like. But ultimately, what I would be concerned about is the first 4 out may not actually be the first 4 out. It's just going to be the next 4 Power 5 conference schools that maybe weren't included in the original group of 68.
I see. I wonder if any of this, I'm sure they've been working on this for a long time, but I wonder if any of this happened because of what happened with Virginia this year. Virginia was shocked to all heck when they made that tournament. Everybody else was shocked. Seton Hall or St. John, somebody else should have been taking that spot, and Virginia absolutely fell apart in that first 4 games. So I wonder if anything has to do with that. Maybe not. Either way, you are pro. Before we switch to Reds, you are pro if the tournament expands.
I'm pro with what I've heard, right?
Okay.
Now, if you come back and you say, we're going to change it completely and this is the new thing and we're going to we're going to remove automatic bids or we're going to do any of these other things, then I would be obviously against it. from what I've heard, just adding in 4 to 8 additional teams, it is what it is. I think that, as someone said, expansion is inevitable in this tournament. You look at football, you look at some of the other sports, ultimately 68 teams out of 360 something or whatever the number is now in terms of Division I basketball schools. So, there's going to be good teams left out regardless of what they do here. There's always going to be that debate about, well, my team should have been in or that team should have been in or whatever it may be. I don't think you're ever going to get away from that. And I think that's part of what makes the tournament great, right? So having these at-large bids is really valuable in terms of driving that conversation versus something like the college football playoff where you don't have the quote-unquote automatic bids as it stands today or has stood, where it's just literally we're going to put the 4 best teams in. This, you have the automatic bids and all of these other conversation pieces that go into it. So a lot different than football specifically. But if you look at other sports, I mean, it's the same way. Conferences have their automatic bids, and then there's a number of at-larges as well to try and accommodate those bigger schools.
That's fair. And just to switch over to the Reds here for a bit with our guy Craig Sandlin, if I would have given you a time machine, Craig, I would have told you back in February or maybe even earlier, let's say January, that the Cincinnati Reds would be sitting a game and a half out of a wild card spot on June 21st, you'd probably take it. Now, they are. That is 100% the truth right now, but they are 35-39. They're in last place in the division, and they've been ravaged by injuries all season long. Expectation-wise, are you disappointed? Are you satisfied? Or are you okay with what's happened this year, given all of the injuries and everything that's happened with this current Reds team?
Well, let me start here. If you would have asked me in February, hey, we're going to be, in the position that we're in, I would have been pretty disappointed, right? So if you would have told me in February when everybody's healthy and we expect to have the full roster, hey, the Reds are going to be 35-39 and they're going to be a game and a half or 2.5 out of the wild card, then I probably would have been pretty disappointed. Now, if you come back to me in May and say, hey, in 2 months, this team is going to be 2.5 games out of a wild card, then I'm actually kind of okay with it, right? So I think the injuries that this team has faced, the lack of production that this team has gotten out of certain positions and certain players that were expected to be better has certainly kind of changed expectations overall for the team. Yeah. For me personally, I made, first of all, let me say this. I made some comments on Wednesday. I think I probably said them in a way that wasn't received well, and I apologize to anybody that was offended on my opinion. But ultimately, I'm not someone who allows baseball or sports in general to ruin my outlook on life or just the day in general, right? It's just not who I am. I never have been. I know that a lot of people live and die with sports, and that the outcomes of these games can take an effect mentally on you. And so, I respect that and understand that is something that you're very passionate about. For me personally, it's just not who I am. I don't typically get affected by wins and losses like that. I'm certainly disappointed in the way that the season has gone. But I think you look at guys like Matt McLean, who was expected to be a huge contributor to this team. You look at guys like CES, who has missed a majority of the season due to injury. You look at guys like Noelvi Marte, who got suspended. And the list goes on and on and on of people who have missed games and missed opportunities that nobody could have counted on. And so, nobody expected the Brewers to be running away with the division like they are. I think there's plenty of complaints that can be thrown around of positions you wish that the Reds would have attacked. We talk about the lack of production from the outfield a lot. We talk about the inconsistencies in the DH position. I was a big advocate for going out and signing a guy like JD Martinez to try and come in and add a consistent bat to the lineup. I think the problem is that this team is just too streaky, and they seem to be streaking together. And that's the biggest difficulty, is that you can sustain a couple guys going through slumps if the rest of your roster is kind of picking them up. Right now, they're not having anybody consistent enough to be able to pick up the rest of the roster when these guys are slumping. And so for a team that relies on platoons and doesn't have anybody that they can plug in, or very few players that they can plug in on a day-to-day basis, regardless of who's pitching, it just puts them in a very difficult position. And a lot of people want to attack David Bell for that. A lot of people want to attack Nick Kroll for that. But ultimately, you have a guy in Noel V. Marte who is expected to play every day. You have a guy in Matt McLean who is expected to play every day. You have a guy in CES who is expected to play every day. You have a guy in TJ Friedel who is expected to play every day. And it just hasn't happened because of injuries and other issues. And so I just, I think you have to adjust your expectations based on reality. And for me personally, the fact that we're in the cellar right now of the division and only 2.5 out, I guess I'm okay with. I think ultimately, if you can stay within a 5-game reach of that wild card position at the All-Star break or early into the second half of the season, I think you're lined up for success in that later portion when a guy like Marte comes back, when a guy like CES maybe comes back.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, but I think you're set up if you can be within striking range that this team is built to be successful. It just hasn't come together so far.
You mentioned Marte. He's obviously returning very, very soon. I still believe he's going to be the player that he was last season. I fell in love with Noel Marte. He had ended the season on a 19-game hitting streak. He was one of the more consistent hitters on the roster. You talk about missing that lack of consistency. And Noel Marte, I think he's going to be that post the steroid suspension. Is that where you are? Do you think Noel Marte is going to be the same player he was before this suspension?
I mean, I think there's going to be an adjustment period. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's been out of baseball for 6 months, essentially. So there's going to be a period of time where it takes him to kind of get back. He's shown some positive strides in AAA. I mean, he's only hitting 194 at this point, but he's hitting the ball hard, even if he's not resulting in hits like we would hope so. An OPS of 416 at AAA is certainly not something to get overly excited about. But I think if you actually watch the at-bats and watch his approach, I think that he does have the opportunity to come back and kind of pick up where he left off. He's still got a week or so left before he's ready to be activated. So a lot can change between now and then. But the biggest thing, that this really provides is just a little bit more flexibility for David Bell to be able to really put the team in the position to be successful. So you've got guys like Jeimer Candelario who have had to step in, guys like Santiago Espinal who's had to step in and play a lot more than you expected, guys like Jonathan India who's had to play defensively a lot more than you expected him to. And credit to those guys. They've stepped up when it mattered and really kind of taken on the roles that they've been assigned. But it's just not the roles that you expected them to have coming into the season. And so, we talk about putting guys in position to be successful. And right now, David Bell's just having to put guys in there because he needs guys to be in there versus putting out an optimal lineup. And so Noel V. Marte comes back, gives a lot more flexibility in the infield. Guys like Spencer Steer don't necessarily have to play first, even though I think he's looked really good at first. You have an opportunity to maybe DH Jeimer Candelario. You've just got options, right? So that's the biggest thing for me when he comes back is does he continue to hit the ball hard like he has? And right now it seems at AAA that he is hitting the ball hard, and that's the important part.
Two guys that knew their roles coming into this season and two guys that have lived up to every expectation this fan base has had for them and maybe exceeded them. And knock on wood, they're going to stay healthy through this second half. Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green. I know it's impossible for me to ask you this, but it's sports talk, and I'm going to make you give me an answer. Who has been better this season, Hunter Green or Nick Lodolo? Who is the ace of the team?
Oh, man. Who's the ace of the team? Well, here's what I'll say. A couple things, I guess I'll say. One is that Hunter Green's been healthy, right? So
that's right.
You had to put some weight to that. Nick Lodolo did miss some time. I also think that Hunter Green's addition of the two pitches that he's been more and more comfortable throwing over the last couple of weeks, I think gives him the slight edge for me. I'll also say this, having a right-handed ace and making teams throw out left-handed heavy lineups versus having a left-handed ace and facing right-handers kind of plays in a little bit. The right-handed batters in the majors are a little bit better than the left-handed batters today. So I think from that perspective, I'll lean Hunter Green. I think Nick Lodolo certainly has shown the capability to be an ace on a different team or even our ace in certain situations. I would like a more consistent third pitch. I'd also like to see him stop hitting batters on that curveball down and in. I think that pitch is good enough where it doesn't have to hit the batter in the back foot in order to still get a strikeout. So, these guys are both young. They're still working on their pitch mix. They're still working on locating those pitches and figuring out exactly what's going to work for them long term. But ultimately, I'm going to lean Hunter Green today.
I agree with you. Not to mention, obviously, Hunter Green has played a couple more games than Nick Lodolo this season. We're going to take a quick break I have a couple more questions for Craig. We're going to take a quick break on ESPN 1410 Wing AM. When we come back, I've got a couple more questions for Craig, and then we'll round out this show on a beautiful Friday. ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We'll be right back. Welcome back in Off the Bench Chatterbox Sports presented by United Dairy Farmers. I am Elliot Rearing, Casey McAllister, Reed Mouse, Jacob Tissett, Jimmy Collins, and now we have Craig Sandlin on the show. We're talking Reds baseball. Craig just picked Hunter Green has been the better pitcher and the ace of the staff over Nick Lodolo. He clearly does not like Nick Lodolo. I'm kidding. Continuing on here with Reds questions. The NL Central standings, you mentioned the Brewers, nobody really thought it would be the Brewers division by June 21st. They have a hold of the division. I don't think they're going to let up. But below the Brewers, how do you think this division is going to finish as this season ends come the end of September? What do you predict here?
Whew, you're putting me on the spot. You want me to give you top to bottom how the Central shapes out? All right. Well, let's stick with the Brewers. Obviously, they're gonna at this point it seems like they're gonna run away with it. I'm gonna throw. Maybe this is a surprise to people. I'm gonna put the Pirates second.
Oh no.
I think they're better than people think. I also think that they have a pitching staff who really has the ability to push them into a wild card scenario. I'll go Reds third. Obviously, I think the Pirates and Reds have very similar pitching staffs where the top three are really good and the next two are not so good. And so, that one can flip-flop for me, but I think the Pirates and Reds are 2 and 3. I'll go Cubs 4 and Cardinals 5. I know the Cardinals right now are second. I don't think they're as good as they're playing. I don't think they're actually that good. I think they're getting lucky a little bit. I'll give Reed a little bit of credit and say that the Cubs aren't the worst team in the division.
Thank you.
Boo. But that's fair. That's fair. I guess my question for you, expectations-wise for the Reds in the second half, if you don't have TJ Friedl, if Jeimer Candelario is going to battle injuries, and again, God forbid we lose one of our starting pitchers, and that's one of the big three, Andrew Abbott, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. If one of those guys goes down, obviously this season might as well be a wash because I don't believe they're going to come back from that. It seems like they're just fighting. Every single night's a fight for the Reds. And at some point, I'd like it to not be that. I'd like it to be like you play the Red Sox on the weekend, and it's like, okay, we can take two if we do things right. We got the health, we got the guys, yada yada yada. The Reds have it, but every single night, no matter who they're playing, it just seems like they're overworking, they're sweating, it's just hard every single night, and I don't think that's sustainable for a season. As this second half goes down the and again, I'm trying to be positive, Craig. I brought on you to be positive, so what you just said was not positive at all. But saying that, I do think the Reds will tail off, and I don't think this is an 80-win team. I think this is a 75-win team, unfortunately. But I hope I'm proven wrong. I really hope I am. I asked you the last time you were on to give me a series prediction win against the Angels. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing against one of the hottest teams in the American League, the Boston Red Sox, at home this weekend. Will the Reds beat the Red Sox this weekend?
Will they win the series?
Yeah, correct.
Well, Last time I went against them, they shut me up and swept the Angels, right?
Correct.
So hard to really go against it. I don't think the pitching matchups are overly positive for the Reds this weekend. We don't know who's going to throw for the Red Sox on Sunday yet, but I don't think that the matchups are overly positive right now. I'll still say that they're going to squeak out a series win.
Oh,
win 2 out of 3. I'm going to choose to be positive here. Despite the last couple games. In terms of your other comment and question is, I think I'm going to be able to feel a lot better about my projection of this team on August 1st once I see what the Reds do at the trade deadline. I think so much is up in the air right now in terms of what they're going to do at that deadline, whether it be because of injuries or because of the way that the next month plus goes. it'll really kind of determine where they go. Nick Kroll's obviously not one to give up a ton of prospects unless he's really bought in on the fact that this can be the year. They're going to have to make a major change over the next 39-ish days to put Kroll in a position to feel comfortable selling or buying at the deadline and moving some of his top prospects, because some of these guys, especially offensively, have shown some ability and some power, which the Reds have really been lacking this year. So I'll feel a lot better about projecting out long-term as the season goes on, and as I kind of feel out how Noelvi Marte bounces back, the health of the team overall. But as it sits right now, it's really hard to say, yeah, this team's going to be a buyer at the deadline the way things are going, because it feels like one of those classic Red situations where they're not bad enough to sell off completely, but they're not good enough to be buyers, and so they just kind of stand pat again.
Yeah.
I would like to believe that that's not the case, and that they'll go out and get either an outfield bat or somebody that can come in and kind of give some high leverage innings out of the bullpen, whatever it may be. Maybe even a back of the rotation starter instead of having to rely on guys like Nick Martinez to do longer outings with an opener or something like that. But a lot of it will have to do with how Graham Ashcraft performs at AAA over the next couple of weeks. Do they think that he's going to be able to come back to the majors this year? Is it going to be, hey, let's continue to keep him down there and we'll see what happens next spring training? There's a lot of factors here that, quite frankly, I don't think that the Reds even know what they're going to be yet, because they're just kind of that middle of the road team where they're still in the playoff hunt, but they're not really showing a whole lot of promise. And so, unfortunately, that feels to me like Nick Kroll is going to say, well, we have the pieces in place already. We're not performing, or injuries are happening, or whatever it may be. So let's stand pat. This is a long-term play anyway. Nobody expected us to win the division this year, or nobody expected us to go to the World Series this year. Let's continue to build for the future, which is going to disappoint a lot of fans if that's what ends up happening. I know a lot of fans will be really disappointed, just like they were last year at the trade deadline. But ultimately, that's just kind of the way the Reds operate. And if I had to put money on it today, I would just say that the Reds make one or two minor moves that don't get anybody excited. And when we look back at it at the end of the year, they'll be solid players, but probably don't move the needle a whole lot.
I agree with you 100%. It's just it's unfathomable to think that the Reds are going to make some big splash at the trade deadline, because I mean, given the current state of the roster, what are you building off of? Half the team's hurt, or going to be hurt, or will be hurt. And that's just the negative pessimist fan in me looking at this Reds team. But you don't have a fully healthy roster right now. You don't have McClain. You don't have TJ Friedel. We don't know what's going on with Candelario. And adding somebody to a roster who we don't – it's basically, as Reed likes to say, it's a team full of question marks right now. Adding one piece here isn't going to make a huge difference. I have one last question for you. I've taken up enough of your time, but I've got one last question for you. You obviously, Craig is a big member of our chat. He posts stuff in there all the time. I was on a slander Alexis Diaz campaign, unfortunately, and a lot has been made about Alexis Diaz losing that closer role as of late. He has 16 saves on the season. As of late, he's been getting the job done. However, I think it's fair to say that getting the job done still makes most Reds fans sweat in the ninth inning. Do you anticipate Alexis Diaz losing the set closer job and then David Bell going to more of a closer by committee between him and Fernando?
Not this year. Certainly not this year. I think
I agree.
I think one of the things that we talked about in the offseason is, and what I think we've seen so far this year, is that if people were to stop swinging at Alexis Diaz's pitches like altogether, he would walk 12 guys a day. Like he very rarely throws the ball in the zone. Either it's up on his fastball or it's outside on the slider. It doesn't feel like he is throwing the ball in the zone a whole lot. With that being said, because of his arm slot and because of the movement on the ball, everything looks like it's going to be in the zone, even though it ends up not in the zone. So, if a team ever really came up and just decided they're going to leave that bat on their shoulder until Alexis Diaz gets them with 2 strikes, he might be in some real trouble. I don't think that MLB batters are that disciplined enough to really do that. I also don't know, depending on the situation that they're coming into, I don't know that they would be comfortable enough putting their batters in a position to be behind with 2 strikes regularly. So at the end of the day, I think David Bell likes having Fernando Cruz to go to in the high leverage earlier situations and then relying on Alexis Diaz later on in the game as the closer role. Fernando Cruz seems to be the guy that a lot of fans are relying on as the go-to closer instead of Alexis Diaz. I think Nick said it the other night. I've heard other people say it, but if you don't have Fernando Cruz in those situations coming in and locking down these high leverage situations earlier in the day, like he did on Wednesday, then you may never get to your closer anyway. So it may not matter, right? And so the question becomes, would you rather have Alexis Diaz in this true closer role where he comes in the 9th, he may walk a guy or whatever, but he's going to buckle down and get the guys out? Or would you rather have Alexis Diaz in a high leverage situation where you have to come in where there's already guys on base and you got to get guys out? I would rely on Fernando Cruz, the guy who's striking out like 15 per 9 right now, than I would someone like Alexis Diaz, who's walking a guy every time he comes into a game, it seems like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think at some point there's going to be a change. It's just not going to happen this year, as a lot of fans want that to happen. But Craig Sandlin, I took up too much of your time. Thank you very much for coming on Off the Bench. You will see Craig at some point this season on Chatterbox Reds with Nick Kirby or with Trace Fowler. Check that out. Craig, thank you very much again. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Appreciate you, Elliot. I'll be on the Chatterbox Reds tomorrow, so we'll see you all then.
See you tomorrow. Chatterbox Reds. Reds take on the Red Sox this weekend. As we wind down the show, gentlemen, we only got a couple minutes left. Let's do a What Did We Learn?
Oh, yeah.
What did we learn on today's show? Jimmy, we'll start with you.
Why do we have to start with me?
Because I want to give myself time to think.
Well,
And I was going to give all these guys time to think as well.
You're the quickest thinking guy here.
By far.
so you're picking on me?
So what did you learn?
I learned that Craig thinks that the Reds are going to win the series against the Red Sox.
Good. Casey, what did you learn?
Something that didn't actually happen on the show. Me and Jacob were DMing each other, and I apparently sent the exact same thing like a couple minutes later. But
Oh, no.
breaking news: Brent Venables, 6-year contract with Oklahoma.
16-10 Brent Venables.
I also texted
Wow.
that to you, Jacob.
Did you?
Yeah, we're like minds over here. So yeah, that was breaking news.
Okay. Reed, what did you learn today?
I learned that chat superstar Mr. Mo is okay. He's just got a
Good.
lot of life going on right now. He plans on being in the chat. Eventually, he's just got to get his priorities in order. So thank you, Mr. Mo.
Shout
for
out,
getting back
Mr.
to
Mo.
us. We love everyone that's in the chat every single day. If you're a listener on the radio, join the chat. It's a lot of fun.
Jacob, what did you learn?
I learned that FCC's a real player for a big-time soccer guy.
That's right. How about that?
Someone
fun
had to
is
say
that?
it. I was waiting for someone to say
How
it.
fun is that? Yeah.
A
how fun
big-time soccer guy seems like something like that the Brits would make fun of us for saying. So is it a football fella? Is that how they say
A football fella.
Is it a football fella
Football
across
fella.
the pond?
It's a footballer. That's what they call him over there. Yeah.
You're not going to get that out of me.
Yeah, that's saying
Fair.
footballer is equating Wayne Rooney to Ray
Hello.
Lewis.
Hello.
Those aren't the same.
I would love to see Wayne Rooney meet Ray Lewis in the A gap.
Oklahoma Joe,
Oklahoma
Wayne
Joe.
Rooney, and Ray Lewis.
I learned
Be
that
Ray Lewis's fourth murder.
I learned that myself and Harrison Bucker might have something in common.
Oh!
And this comes with me in pickleball and Harrison Bucker in life. We both have never been in the kitchen. So that's it. Off the bench, Chatterbox Sports. That has been our show for the radio, folks. For the YouTube side, we're still here. If you're listening on the radio and want to watch the YouTube side, come on over, Chatterbox Sports. There's all kinds of fun videos coming out. Everything's happening. Very busy time. So come on over to our YouTube channel. Have some fun with some of the guys, including Mark Fetters. Shout out to Mark Fetters, the biggest Chatterbox Sports fan we have. I love Mark Fetters. I took a picture in front of Ohio State because of Mark Fetters. Mark Fetters, shout out to you. ESPN 1410 Wing AM. Have a very pleasant weekend. Have a great weekend. Try not to stay too hot. And if you're at a wedding and it's 95 degrees for 8 hours on a farm, you can wear a polo. That's okay. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, and we're back. So you can move if you want.
Nah, I'll stay here.
Well,
Before-
I kind of need you to move over there.
Before you clip that up, can you do the ad reads real quick? Because we are 30 minutes late.
Sorry,
on
I
those.
lost track of time.
Yeah, so Encore Technologies, they provide IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing, desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity.
that's right, Jimbo. Productivity. The path to innovation begins right here. Visit encore.tech. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. You can visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. And since I'm not completely familiar if we changed our deal with Game Time, I'm going to do the Game Time ad today. Usually it's just a Monday thing, but
Let's go.
Shout out Game Time.
I'm going to do it today because Game Time has actually come through quite a bit for me as of late, going to different Reds games and things like that. Today, Reds tickets are at $17 right now.
Wow.
It's
It's a pretty good deal.
It's actually a pretty good deal. The new kids on the block also play at Riverbend tonight.
They had a bunch of hits.
Yep, bunch of hits.
And Chinese food makes me sick.
Let's see. And we've already talked about how they have some deals for the Bengals tickets going on right now. Things coming up in the future, like the Niall Horn concert that's coming up here soon.
You can get on Game Time and see the Buckeye Country Superfest, which is Saturday and Sunday. Zach Bryan, Turnpike Troubadours, Billy Strings, 49 Winchester, Charles Wesley Godwin, all fantastic artists. You can get tickets at this very moment for $50 all in.
What venue is
Very
this at?
nice.
The shoe.
The shoe.
It is at the shoe.
It's at the shoe.
$33 on Game Time get-in price for Sunday.
It's a good deal.
Wow.
Kenny
How can I
Chesney.
say
How
no?
can I
Because
say
I love
no?
Turnpike. I love Zach. Billy Strings
Is Turnpike there?
Turnpike's there.
Oh, wow.
I love 49 Winchester. Billy Strings is okay. Yeah, I don't know
Is
how.
Zach closing it out?
Oh yeah.
No. He's opening.
I actually went to we did an event with the board a couple years ago where he was an opener because this is right when he blew up right after American Heartbreak, and he was the opener for like Willie Nelson and for Turnpike was there too, and I kid you not, it was a festival. Like half the festival left after Zach was playing. He was like the second act of like 7, and half the festival left because they're just like, "Hey, we're just here for Zach." And no one knew who he was at the time. Had a bigger pull than Tim McGraw at the time, which was crazy. I will say this. So, like you asked about the venue, big stadiums are the opposite of the venue I'd prefer to see a concert.
Correct.
Right. Like there's Horseshoe. It's great. I'm not going to turn that $35, $40, whatever you said, get in price to go see Zach Bryan, Turnpike Troubadours. Yeah, how do I say no to that? But like, I'd much rather see them in a seedy bar, or I don't even want to go to an arena. Like, I'd rather see them at Riverbend.
Yeah.
I'd rather see them at an amphitheater than at a big stadium.
I want to see Luke Combs, but I would rather die than see Luke Combs in section 600 of Paycor. Up in the nosebleeds, nobody can see a thing, and you're just up there trying to listen to the music. I've never experienced a concert at Paycor. So maybe it's better than what I'm giving it credit for, but it sounds terrible. Riverbend is such a good concert venue and stuff like that. I think, Blossom?
Can we turn on Elliot's mic?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I think Blossom's Music Center, I think that's in Cleveland.
Yep.
I've been there. That's really cool. Anything just like...
The thing about Riverbend though is like, if you're in certain parts of the lawn, you can't see the stage anyways because the screens and stuff like that. So you're just watching it on television, which is what you would be doing if you went to Paycor Stadium. I'm giving fair to the stadium tours and stuff like that. And also the stadium tours typically have bigger production and all these things if you're into that sort of thing.
They've always done a pretty good job, at least the ones I've been to, with having like pretty big jumbotrons like on the side of the stage and stuff, so you can still see if you're up top. I don't hate the stadium shows. Obviously, I like more
I've
intimate
actually
environments.
never-
Does the sound still
I've
sound good?
Yeah, it
never
sounds great.
been to a stadium show. I
you
will
gotta
say
think-
I've never been to one.
You got to think how many speakers they have set up around college and pro sports stadiums to get music piped in anyway for the games. So
I have to finish the Game Time read. Otherwise, we don't get paid for it. So, sorry. Take the guesswork out of buying the tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app. Create an account. Use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price is guaranteed. It's only supposed to be like a 30-second, 60-second ad.
They got like a 3-minute.
They got a lot. They got a lot there.
We
So
love you,
good
Game
for
Time.
them.
Thank you for sponsoring us. But yeah, I hold on to. I've never been to a stadium show, so I guess I'll give it credit until I experience it. I will say that I guess I'm being braggadocious here when I say I'm probably jaded on Zach Bryan because I saw him at Bogarts.
Right.
I saw him at the Ryman where I was 30 feet from him. I've seen him at smaller venues. So now going to 100-person stadium seems not as enjoyable.
I've only ever seen him at the Shoe and BJCC, which is the arena in Birmingham. So
Right.
only ever arena shows.
I see.
Someone told me he's no longer singing "Open the Gate" to open
Yeah,
concerts.
overtime.
Which I love that song.
But overtime comes after the game.
It should be last.
Well, it's if you've ever been to an AC/DC concert, which I imagine no one in this room has.
No.
They finished their shows and have for now 4 decades with "For Those About to Rock," which is the end of the show. That's how they end the show.
Papa Rock.
AC/DC, it is the dumbest rock that you can like because it is. They play 3 chords. Their lyrics mean nothing, but they just rock. So it's fun.
Thunder.
What's that song came out in the mid-90s.
Thunder.
That song came out in the mid-90s.
That was not by the original singer of AC/DC, I believe,
Yes,
right?
about like 16 years after he died.
That's crazy. That's like people don't talk about that enough. AC/DC has 2 different like legacies. One with the original singer, one without him.
Mm-hmm.
Both were equally good.
Yeah, Bon Scott was the better singer, but you probably know more songs from Brian Johnson. I liked Bon Scott more. Yeah.
Casey, we are going to switch over to the video with FC Cincinnati here soon. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got to do it here in the next couple minutes.
All right, so let's do it. You want to do it right now?
You want
Minute?
What's up?
You want to do it right now?
What are we doing?
Flip over right now.
It's only 8 minutes long.
Well, here we go.
So
We
the
got-
premiere starts at 11:45.
So we
So
got to
here's
do
what
it
we're
before
going to do.
11.
Very quickly. We do have chat power rankings. I'm doing them. It's a shortened list. I'll do these real quick. I need either a whoop whoop or a two.
All right.
Okay.
Whichever one you guys
All right.
decide on. First comes first. We're going to go the first group of honorable mentions. We've got Spirit Cat, Nick Mormon, and Nate Seltzer.
First group?
Tua.
Yeah, I'm locked 2 in all honorable mentions.
Whoop, whoop.
Honorable mention, Mark Fetters and Mainstream Media Liars.
Whoa.
Tua.
Hawk 2 and Reed for
Hawk-
Mark Fetters on the honorable
This is
mentions.
some bad starts.
Honorable
Nate Seltzer,
mention, Mark Fetters.
These were top 3. These are top 3 chatters last week. They're honorable mentions.
These were my top 2.
Coming in at number 5, we've got Molly. We got Molly, the queen of the chat. Thank you as always, Molly, for being a part of it. Hope you're enjoying your new job. Coming in at number 4, as always in my top 5, we got Everett Henry. Ramley, I get to play golf with your favorite person in the world, Evan McPherson tomorrow, so I'll do best to represent the Ramley. Thank you, Everett Henry. As always, whoop, whoop.
Wide right.
Coming in at number 3, I don't think I've had him this high before, Chase Wellman.
Yes.
Chase Wellman. I got him in at
Yes,
number
Chase.
3. We love you, Chase. Thank you for being. You had a great week this week, so we thought we'd honor you with 3rd place. So
You did well, man.
Here we go, Chase.
And coming in at number 2, the greatest bartender in pitch history, it's Mike Ackley.
Oh.
Mike Ackley with a number 2 spot. So thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Here we go, Mike.
We love you so much. Whoop, whoop. And then coming in at number 1, it's who everyone, I think everyone's going to guess that he was number 1 because he had such a great week. It's Brian B. Thanks, Brian. Your enduring positivity to the chat is well loved. Thank you so much for being in the chat.
Undisputed leader.
Oh, so much.
Undisputed leader.
Thank you for coming in number 1.
Don't worry, Drew. I would have mentioned you.
Emphasis on the 2.
You forgot Drew Garrison.
No, he didn't.
I give my chat for the chat.
All right, that's our show. I'm interviewing FC Cincinnati fans. Mouse Cop should give me credit for that. Coming up next, we're going to redirect you that way. Off the bench, Chatterbox Sports, Elliot, Jacob, Reed, Casey, Jimmy. I messed it up that time. Have a very, very good weekend,
Grip
everybody.
it and rip it after that.
Grip it and rip it after that.